Welcome to the Art of Medicine. I'm Dr. Andrew Wilner, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Debra Blaine. Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Blaine, you're on this show because I heard a podcast that you did with my friend John Jerica about your first novel. And as a writer myself, that interested me quite a bit. So I have lots of questions. You're a practicing physician and now a novel. So I want to ask, why did you write it, of course, and what it's about. It's called Code Blue. It's available on Amazon and probably lots of other places. But before we get started, I want to know, is there anything in your background going way back when that if I knew about it, I could have said, yes, she's the one who might write a novel?
Well, I was always, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I love John Jerica. And I just appreciate being here. And I'm just going to say as a little aside that I love talking about my book, but right now with the whole COVID-19, it feels markedly insignificant. But that having been said, um, so I was a liberal arts major. I've always been more interested in the part of life that you can't pin down, that you can't measure. And but when I was growing up, I had three choices. I could be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. Those are the only three things that were acceptable in my household. So being the forest ranger that I wanted to be was kind of nixed. But I majored in the humanities, and I was in a honors humanities program at the University of Texas. And I did some writing then, but I never really thought that I was going to write a book.
I think, well, first of all, let me say that today is April 1st, 2020. So we're right in the middle of this COVID-19. And I agree with you. Somehow all of our priorities are kind of mixed up. But it is important that humanities don't go away in particular.
Hmm.
So you had an interest in literature way back when. And so it's not a surprise that later in life. These things don't go away, but there must have been a trigger. You know, a novel's a big job. So what was the trigger?
So I think the place that I was working full time in a corporate structured urgent care. And everything that I enjoyed about medicine was all turned upside down. So there was so much emphasis on getting patients through really fast, um, doing customer satisfaction. I felt like, we're now retail workers, we're customer service agents, and it just, everything was about how the patients felt about what we did for them, right down to the coffee creamer selection in the waiting room. And then we could get downgraded for that. There was so much additional pressure that was just not necessary. It wasn't about medicine. I just wanted to take care of people. And it was very frustrating. And I was, it was giving me stomach aches. And then instead of having all that sort of transmuted to my body like that, what I did was I started to write things down. I said, I'm going to write about this. And the more things happened, the more I just said, oh, I'm going to put that in the book. And so I would just jot it on a piece of paper. And the more outrageous it was, the better fodder it was for my book. And I even had my colleagues telling me, hey, you wouldn't believe what happened to me today. I want you to put this in your book. So that became like an outlet. It was almost like I was looking for those crazy moments. I mean, I didn't want them, but when they came about, there was like a positive spin on it, so that I would have something to do with it that was constructive. But I also, I realized that I wanted to make it fiction for a number of reasons. One was liability, of course, but the other was, to me, fiction has always just been so much more interesting. Facts are necessary, and we live our life by them, but fiction is play for the mind and for the soul. And so I
Well,
was
it
more fun.
certainly gives you a lot more freedom to create your characters the way you'd like to. But I would agree that there's no such thing as a fictional novel, right? It all has elements in truth and experience. And I remember when I wanted to write my first novel years ago, it was like, well, I haven't had any experiences. You know, what do I write about? But as life continues, you accumulate experiences, and some of them deserve to be put on paper. I want to mention another novel that yours reminded me of called The Hospitalist, which is by Michael Weisberg. It came out a couple years ago, and Michael's a friend of mine, and he is a gastroenterologist. And he was just, I think, um, dismayed and awed by this hospitalist movement where patients would, you know, we're used to it now, but in the old days, you went to the hospital, you saw your doctor. And now
Right.
you go to the hospital and you see some random doctor. And
Hmm.
the stories of problems. I've had one in my own family that have caused by lack of continuity. Every doctor has them. And so his it's a fiction novel, which is a fun read, I think was really provoked by that, where he talks about several doctors who, you know, practiced in the old way when this new hospitalist thing came, and how it seems so crazy, you know,
Hmm.
from a doctor patient point of view. And of course, now it's just normal. And it does have its benefits, of course. We don't have to have a discussion of that. But I would encourage people to read the Hospitalist also, if you're interested in how corporate America and how modernization affects physicians. And your novel, Code Blue. So tell me what it's about.
Apparently there are a few code blues out there. So mine is code blue at the other end of the stethoscope. I just found a line here, one of them.
Excellent, excellent.
um, and it's about this woman physician, and it follows her through her days as she tries to practice, or does the best she can to practice medicine. And in so doing it, it illustrates all the not all, but many of the problems that we face, the challenges that we have. But it's also a medical thriller, and it's about Russian oligarchs who have hacked into our electronic medical records, and they've stolen information that they use to extort money and then kill patients, lots and lots of money. And she ultimately ends up becoming a target in this scheme. And I don't know how much of it I should give away, but
As
so
if life wasn't hard enough, right? At
right,
the
right.
I will say that your book, if you gave it to a medical student, would definitely not be a big sales piece for going into urgent care. I think urgent care physicians will identify it. In fact, you should have John Jerica read it,
Oh, you
because
did.
he works in urgent care. But it really brought out the limitations that physicians face in that scenario, and demands of patients. It's like, gee, this isn't fun. Um, so I think people should take that, excuse me, into account. But yes, the other side of your novel is a thriller. There's also one by Robin Cook. I'm sure you're familiar with Robin Cook. In
I
fact, I think
love
he wrote
being
one called
there.
Coma. He's sort of more my generation than yours, and but he wrote a thriller back when the iPhone first came out, about getting all of your it was like a Google, get Dr. Google. You'd get all of your medical input. You'd put in your question, it would tell you what to do, how to adjust your doses, you know, an AI, artificial intelligence. But behind the scenes, the AI was looking at who is a big consumer of health resources and looking for ways to bump them off. So there was some similarity there, where you know, sick patients, people don't realize it, you know, the most cost effective care, right, for patients is to get rid of them. And
Right.
that's why I've always thought personally that, you know, when people started talking about cost effective medicine, it's like, that's nonsense. It's like medicine is not cost effective. You know, who's worth saving? You know, if you think about it, who contributes enough to society to really warrant spending all that money on them?
That's
Not too
exactly what
many
we.
people.
It's
So the
exactly
whole
what makes me
concept, I mean,
like to.
obviously waste should be eliminated, but the concept of cost effectiveness, which is, if you Googled it, there's probably millions of hits, is based on a false premise.
Well, that's exactly what we're having to deal with right now, and certainly what Italy is having to deal with is if you're over 60, don't come to the hospital. Just die at home. You're not going to get treated because they don't have the
Is
resources.
that in Italy?
That's happening in Italy right now. That if you're over 60, don't go to the hospital. And I know people, who've told me about relatives who've died at home at 62 because they were
Wow.
told don't bother to show up. And it's one of the things that may be facing America. We're trying not. I live in New York, so Governor Cuomo has been asked that question. What are the parameters going to be? And he's still saying, oh, we're not even going to talk about that. But we may come to that. Who shall live and who shall die. But on the other hand, medicine has become this business that, I even have like a slide I use for my coaching. I have a coaching practice also that I use with my clients, and it's, a patient cured is a customer lost. So really, the thing is that we need people to keep coming. Not we, the corporations need people to keep coming in and spending money, but they don't want the really sick patients, as you said, to be coming in and spending money. They want the real easy things. So they encourage, come in if you have the sniffles, or come in if you scrape your thing. I mean, when you were young, I mean, you're not that much older than me. Did you go to the doctor with a cold? Nobody did. And what's happening now with COVID-19 is we're going back to that, which is if you have a cold, stay home. And the truth is,
Yes.
that's that particular bit of advice is something that should have been going on for a long time, and we wouldn't have had this glut. But what's happened is it's become a way for big business to make money. And these are not people that are doctors who are interested in health. They're interested in this is a great avenue to get onto the Fortune 500. So, if we get all these people who are just like a little bit uncomfortable, and we can sell them lots of drugs, and we can get them to come in and come out, and if they're happy with us and they write these great recommendations, we can make lots and lots of money. But that's not really medicine anymore. These are not the people who need us, and we're not free to take care of them in the best way we know how, because if they don't like our chosen treatment, we get downgraded, the survey's bad, we get disciplined. They write us up on social media and then come back 2 weeks later with another problem, even though they just trashed us, and now we have to like defend ourselves. So it's really, medicine's been turned upside down. And I think that not that this is about COVID-19, but that backdrop of what's been happening in medicine and corporate medicine, now when you superimpose a crisis, you don't have this the same out. We have a lot of awesome, amazing volunteers who are going out there on the front lines. But I feel like, I hear the rumblings. We don't have the outpouring of volunteers we had, say, with 9/11, because I was in New York City. I was working in Queens during 9/11 as well. And everybody was just right out there. What can I do? What can I do? Of course, there was nothing to do. You either walked away or you were dead. But in this case, you have a group of professionals who have felt so stepped on for so long that now when you say, oh, we really need you, it's a little harder. Now you have to appeal to that underneath, well, what did I really go into this for, and what's it really about? And it's really not about the corporations. It's about the people, and it's about what I can do to help in this crisis. And it's harder to get past that for some people.
I want to get back to your book. Have
Yeah.
you had any feedback? Your name's on the book, so there must be some people that kind of put two and two together. Have you had any feedback from readers?
Oh, I've had a lot of, thank God, a lot of it. I mean, I haven't gotten any negative feedback. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. People have asked me, when am I writing my next one? I've had even from people in like the NetGalley who said, made comments, I want to read another book from this author, and I've never met them before. So yeah, I've had, and I love that you compared me to Robin Cook. I mean, how much better can you get? but so it's I've had really good feedback. I really have, and I'm very grateful for that.
So what do you think? Is there going to be another book?
I'm writing the next book.
So
I'm
the
already
answer is
writing.
yes. The answer
The
is yes.
answer is yes.
Well,
And
what's
this
our
one,
timeline? When do we have to do this show again?
um, I'd like to have it done by the end of the year.
Oh, that's
Maybe
fast.
sooner.
That's fast.
Maybe sooner. I mean, I'm sort of into it. I don't have the same urgency with this one. I had something I wanted to say with the last one, and then the whole thriller thing, and there's a love story in it, and how is she going to get out of it, and who's going to die, and who's going to succeed and make it. And the last book was so much fun, but it was superimposed on this urgent message that I wanted to get across, and I don't have that urgency. This one is just for fun, and but I've been sort of working it through, and because I want all of my books, I'm going to say all of my books in a positive spin, to have a message, to have something to say other than just. So one of the people that I was working with on the last book said, you did such a great. He really helped me with the thriller part tremendously, and at the end he said, you did such a great part with the thriller that you don't really need all this stuff in the office. And I said, but that's why I wrote the book. I need to, but now I don't need the stuff in the office. I'm not writing about in the office. This book takes place, this next one, part in New York City, in Midtown Manhattan. And, but it has its roots, like the backstory is in the Northern Andes in Peru. And it's going to be a global mystery thriller. So and I've done a lot of research on it, and what I really want to do in this book is show how ridiculous it is that we as human beings we come against each other over political things. So just stupidity, like members of the same family won't talk to each other, and just like how does that happen, and what can we do about it? And so I have a little spin for that. And hopefully it's very interesting, and will sort of keep you guessing a little bit.
Well,
So
look
yes,
forward to
so
that.
I'm writing that.
Well, Dr. Blaine, I want to thank you for joining us. We're out of time. It's been
Okay.
great to meet you virtually and learn about your writing and your background. And I think your book, Code Blue, is definitely worth a read. And I look forward to the next one. Thanks very much for joining us on the art of medicine.
Can I put one little plug in for myself? I'm also
Absolutely.
Thanks. I'm a certified coach through Fowler International Academy, and I work a lot with medical professionals or other people who are sort of struggling with the whole corporate impersonalness of just the world that we have to live in. And I do group sessions and individual sessions, and I even certify people who want to become coaches themselves. And you can find all of that on my website.
Yes, I should have asked you, what is your website?
So it's debrablaine.com. DEBRA, the short way, BLAINE.com. And it's got information about my book, where you can buy it, which is pretty much anywhere. And information is a whole page on coaching, if anyone's interested in that. And especially right now, I mean, a lot of my coaching right now has to do with coping with the coronavirus and everything that's done to us.
Well, thanks again. And I look forward to talking to you in about a year, if not sooner.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wilner. I really, really appreciate it.